Council meeting order September 12, 2011. I'd like to ask Mayor Rogers, if you would, to please an invocation.
Let us pray. Good Lord, we thank you for this day, and God, we thank you for the ability to come here and take care of the business of our cities and our counties, Lord. God, we just ask the decisions that are made here today that they'll be in the best interest of our cities and counties, Lord. God, we just never want to forget what happened on 9/11, Lord. Lord, just always keep us ever mindful of the fact that there are folks out there who don't like us, Lord, who want to see our liberties taken away, God. Lord, just be with our men and women in service as they fight to defend our freedoms, Lord. Forgive us of our sins. For your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Number one, approval of the August minutes. So moved. Got a motion by Mr. Orr.
Second.
By Mayor Straw. Question? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Finance report. Mr. Ruth.
Okay, you've got your information in front of you that was also emailed out, going through the Rankin-Hinds general information, the balance sheet showing the balances in the accounts as of August 31, the profit and loss for the month of August, showing income and expenses, followed by the amounts paid to vendors in the month of August, the detailed listing of those. Then the Leflore Lake project expenses, fiscal year to date with prior years at the top. The deposit detail for the month of August following that. And then the bills to be paid docket. But I do have 3 manual additions. You have copies of 2 legal bills that I had already sent this out for getting them, so we need to add the Watkins Ludlam bill of $2,847 and then $922.92. And then I have one per diem for a meeting that needs to be added for the August 25th core meeting. And that will total, those will be added to the $11,952.74. And any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
But Gary, what Mason and Overstreet do for what? Was that a pump repair?
No, we had some welding that we had to have done. We had to build something broke on the tractor. Rear part of the tractor broke, and they rebuilt some of the bracing on the back of the tractor.
Okay. I didn't know if it was a pump or
Yes.
Okay.
No, so it was tractor repair.
All right.
If there are no questions to the Leflore Lakes development, one is followed, and it has no balances, no activity.
Move.
Motion by Mayor Scarborough.
Second.
Mr. Socrates. Garrett, any other questions? Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. District engineer report. Alan?
Yes, sir. I think you said you have a status report, other than the river station and all things been relatively quiet in Stephanie, Kansas City. Southern continues work on that, on Old Rankin Road, on that siding track there, but they're winding that project down, and hopefully within the next month or so, they say that they'll be through over there. The teletype communication crossing of the levee at the new core steel, that has been completed, and did a real good job restoring the levee there, and go by and look at that looks nice. So the only other thing I can hear is started on that Tree Branch grade control, and started on a couple of structures, and of course the water came up and had to cease that, but I think they started work on that. I guess as soon as the water drops, we'll start back in there. Any questions?
Any questions from Mr. Scott?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the airport parking project, I get a few questions about it from time to time from the Hinds County Board of Supervisors as to the status of it. And I noticed that we said miscellaneous correspondence with one that continues. Is there any update on that project?
I'm not aware of where it is, the board's involved in that, the levee district's involved in that is when is the reviewing the plans where they cross the levee district properties. The last time that we spent any time on that was when NDOT was asking for vendors to maybe do design builds, and Gary and I had met with some of those guys here to look and discuss some of the unique situations, design situations they were going to have to look at in crossing the levees and allowing us still the ability to ride the levees and fight flood and those type of things. So that's what we've done. That's been, Gary, a couple of years old? It's been over a year ago since so I don't really know where that project is from a project standpoint, but that's where it is as far as how it relates to the levee district. There's certain things that this district, that we're going to recommend this district needs to look at on how they cross your facilities.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trout. Maintenance report.
Thank you, Mayor. This morning, the river is a little over 27 feet. We will begin opening the gates today. We've got two structures that we have to close at 28 feet, one here in Flowwood and one's over north of Fortification Street. We'll close or open those gates today. We're continuing to pump over at Fairground Station. We're still getting inflow at that station. It has reduced somewhat. We're only running 3 pumps now to be able to keep up with the flow that are coming in. We anticipate as the river continues to drop that flow will subside and we'll be able to shut those pumps off. They're anticipating that the river should be below the 13.5 feet later in the week. So that will allow us to open up the floodgates there and allow whatever comes in to grab the flood. After that, Alan mentioned that we began on the weirs. We will start back once the river does subside and we're able to get in there after that creek dries up some. We'll get in and go to work. First thing we're going to do once the river gets off our levee, we'll do an inspection of our levees and make sure that we didn't have any slides or any sloughs, caused from that water being on the levees. And the biggest thing I anticipate is just the trash that's associated with the flood event. Other than that, that's all I've got. Report, I'm glad to answer any questions. Mayor?
Over at the, what do y'all call that, fortification ponding area?
Right.
Over there, with the amount of sewer that's flowing in there, are we going to have any kind of cleanup to do there, or is there, the way you were talking the other day, it was a lot of sewer that was...
Mayor, I expect that if there's any cleanup to be done, the city of Jackson would take care of that. We don't plan on cleaning up any of the grounds around there for sewer.
Okay.
We'll pick up, we'll get...
I understand it's not, I do understand that, but I'm just, I was concerned with that amount of still flowing in there. That's, if nothing else, it's not going to be real creepy.
Our conversation with Dan and David Willis was that the environmental issues were there.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Attorney's report.
Just one quick item. As you recall, we met with the Corps on August 25th to review the various options available to the district as far as proceeding forward with completing the study. As a result of that, after reviewing various ways we can approach, we discussed with them Section 211 and the reasons why the district is interested in pursuing Section 211. They requested that the board send a formal letter stating that they want to pursue a 211 agreement with the district. I've got a draft letter available for y'all to review. Once we submit that to the Corps, we'll then be able to finalize the agreement. Program revision folks do not need to wait. They can continue moving this project forward while we're still talking terms over the next, I would anticipate it'll probably take us 30 to 60 days to finalize the 211 agreement with the Corps. They've begun drafting it already as well. So what I'd like to ask is the board vote to submit the 211 letter requesting to enter into a 211 agreement. Yeah, okay. Copy here, but I didn't get a chance to send it out to them yet.
Keith, per our discussion on that, have we made any further contact with, Jackson Vision Group, Pearl
Vision Foundation? Yeah, they were involved in the core meeting. They had several board members in attendance as well as their engineers and their staff there. So they were participating in the dialogue as far as the 211 issues and other. They also, I think they're going to give a quick update on Harris County. We participated in a meeting with them at Harris County to discuss Section 211 because Harris County, Texas, has conducted quite a few of these 211 projects and really understands how the system works with the Corps.
The permit, will that be made to the district or to?
Well, it won't be an actual permit per se, but as far as the project, once it's approved, it'll be just like a regular Corps project. It'll be follow the same process as if we were doing it with the Corps, because the Corps has to review the work and has to approve it essentially.
It will be with the Levee district.
It'll be with the district. That's correct. I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. Yes, that's right. The Pearl Revision Foundation would be merely the consultants that you retain to help move the study to completion. But the agreement will be between the Corps and the district.
Have we discussed with them anymore on making sure that if they're going to move forward with it, that they're going to go all the way till the Corps says, yes, you can do it, or no, you can't?
No, we have not had, based on some of the other discussions, we haven't sat down with them about the phased aspect and everything else that we have to work out.
I make a motion that we give the chairman the authority to submit the letter to the Corps.
Motion by Mayor Rogers,
I will second.
second by Mayor Scarlett. Questions, discussion?
I have a question, I guess. Will the agreement name Pearl River Vision, or is that a separate?
Now, that work is between the district and Pearl River Vision.
So this is just authorizing or saying that the Corps and the district will work toward this Section 211, and then we'll subcontract whatever we need to do to make the 211 happen.
Yeah, but what this is asking is to tell the Corps we want to enter into an agreement with them, begin discussions to finalize the 211 agreement with the Corps. Yes.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor,
Can I ask a question? Is Mr. Steve in town? Is anybody down?
he said the other day he'd be out of town Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, that was it.
Mayor, one thing I failed to mention a while ago, the day we talked about the possibility of making a request to the governor for some grant funds to apply toward the installation of those auxiliary fire units. I don't think there was any action. If the board is in agreement, if we could get authorization for the mayor to send a written request over to the governor for some funds to help build those, or to build those generator units.
Moved.
Second. Motion by Mayor Scarlett, second by Mr. Orr. Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor.
Gary, how long do you think it would be before we may have a turnaround on the response then?
I spoke the other day to Mr. Speed. He came after the meeting. He was really late. And I talked to him, and he said he would follow up and try to work with the governor's chief of staff, see if he could help make this happen.
Okay.
So my understanding is those funds go away at the end of December. And we'd like to try to capitalize on it if we can get something for it.
This was to build.
Generate, they all go to power units.
Right, do we have updates? Wait.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, guys. Mr. Chair, pass that out. Again, as Keith had indicated, we did, Matthew Miller, Blake Vendrop, myself, and Keith Turner did go to Houston last month to visit with the Harris County Flood Control District. Here's an overview of their district and some of their 211 projects that they participated in. Go through these briefly. As I just stated, last month, Blake Vendrop and Matthew Miller, two of our program revision engineers, along with Keith Turner and myself, traveled to Houston to meet with Steve Fitzgerald, who is the chief engineer of the Harris County Flood Control District. Just a little background on the Harris County Flood Control District is that they were a special flood district created by the Texas legislature in 1937. The boundaries are the entire Harris County, which is 756 square miles. They've got a population of over 4 million people inside their district. They've got 32 different municipalities, including Houston, also inside their district, with 10 congressional districts that touch the Harris County Flood District. Their flooding is mostly comprised of 22 watersheds, and they drain into over 1,500 channels. They have about 2,500 miles of channels there in their county. They have constructed 160 stormwater detention basins, which is a total of 15,200 acres, and it ranges from 1 acre to 1,000 acres. Keith was with us. We got their engineer drove us down through some of these basins, and they really are very large detention basins. They've got a different topography and different challenges than we do here in the Jackson Metro area. They basically got very flat terrain, a lot of clay soils that they don't absorb water very well, so they have a lot of flash flooding problems. That's why they built their detention basins to temporarily store this water as it drains out. So even though their actual projects per se, and you'll see there's an overview on a few of those, including their grade value, which is one that we looked at, are not the same as what we're constructing here. The process is, the 211 process is the same, and that's really what we went to focus on. And in 1996, Harris County was one of the major flood districts that pushed the 211 word legislation. And by doing so, they have learned how to trial by fire their way through that process. They now have engaged 5 211 projects with the Corps, and they have found that it is one of the most effective ways to get a project completed, with the local district, the local sponsor, taking the lead on the project and then letting the Corps have overview and oversight as they move along that project path. So one thing I think that I guess the major takeaway from our trip was that we did form a relationship with their chief engineer, who's also on the United States Internal Drainage Board. Is that right, Keith? Who's been over to Jackson and goes to Vicksburg regularly, and he'd like to come visit with the board the next meeting if the board would allow. We'd like for him to come speak as well on some of his experiences with the 211 processes and really some of those challenges that they had and how they overcame the challenge. Because they learned the hard way what to do, what not to do, and I really found the effective way to move forward. And as you'll see in that initial handout I gave you there on page 3, he talks about what they like about the core planning process and things they don't like about it. And I think we can relate with all those points there here in the presentation. So
Anybody have any questions?
Did they put millage county-wide in that area, right?
Yes, sir. They do, which is an advantage that they have, I guess, is funding. They have 2.9 mil, they charge 2.9 mils countywide. Yes, sir. And which funds, basically their annual budget, operating budget, just for 2011, was $93 million. Their capital projects were $176 million, but that's not, their projects are not funded out of their millage. Only their operations are. The projects come mainly from the district's short-term and long-term borrowing. Harris County's would issues long-term bonds on their behalf. They also have impact fees and cash that they did. I guess they were getting earmarks allocated down. And they get a very large percentage of earmarks. Considering 10 congressional districts and their senators were pushing hard for them, they're able to bring a lot of money from Washington as well to help with their projects.
If we think outside of the box on this project a little bit, this weekend, this past weekend has really demonstrated again, which it does constantly, the need for flood control, not only within that levee system or within the Pearl Basin, but the draining into the streets, the ditches that go into Jackson, that's into Hall Creek over here, Richmond Creek. Richmond Creek flood caused us more flooding this weekend than the Pearl did. And if we don't do something to address the entire basin area, because Richmond Creek is part of the Pearl River Basin area, but we're not looking at anything in this plan that, future growth in Pearl, future growth out of Whitfield, the airport, all of that comes down at some point through Richmond. All of that drainage does through the different creeks and all. And years ago, the Richmond Creek District came in and put some, and Billy, you may can help me on this, with some dry dams in, and made some, but if we don't look at something basically from Shiloh all the way across, especially on the Rankin County side, we may be solving the problem north of the weir, but we're definitely not solving the problem south of the lower weir. Because that's where, even if you put a levee on the south side of Richmond Creek, would it help me? Absolutely. But what it's also going to do, though, is cause him more problems, cause Brandon more problems, cause State Hospital, because the state owns a tremendous amount of land, east of 49.
Right.
So we've got to look at something that's going to me, encompass the whole area, especially if we've got any chance of trying to go countywide on some of this millage. So it's going to take more than just saying this is going to solve the flooding in this area. We've got, because it's way more. They had flooding over there, Brandon had flooding, and all of that flows into the Pearl River at some point.
Right.
Those two levees are just east of Brandon. And when the rain was going on the other day, I rode down 18 and I rode down Whitfield. And of course, it's so much water from all that area. It's a much bigger area like you're talking about. Most people realize it looked like a little Mississippi River.
It goes all the way to Shiloh Hills on the east side of Brandon.
Yeah, almost be like it.
Yeah. And all of that drains into Richmond Creek, which eventually does. We had the rain event. We had two houses got water during the 10-inch rain event. It goes down. That afternoon, Richmond Creek rises, and that's from the flow from Brandon, Whitfield, and Pearl came in. We had 7 houses get under, plus a number of businesses. And you could sit there and watch Richmond Creek rise, and what it does, it gets to where, 49 stops the water flow. What it does is just runs down the berm of Highway 49 down to Squirrel Branch. And then it floods it was more water than Squirrel Branch from the overflow of Richmond Creek than washed from the 10-inch rain we had.
Right.
And we're going to have to make this thing address all of those problems. We paid $10,000 a year. It was done on a 50-year contract with Richmond Creek Watershed District. The county put some in, and I don't know if anybody else does or not. Billy, do you?
No, it was just for that district at one time.
Yeah. And it addressed the problems, like I said, around 18, that way, and then we have a whole gap between that last winter and Pearson Road, where nothing's never been done. So we've got to, that to me has all got to be incorporated in some term long-type planning that protects all of us. Whether you're in Brandon, and they're not even part of this, but at some point, their water comes through us. People don't think about that. Richmond Creek drains everything from Shiloh Hills back west to the Pearl River.
One thing else we did talk about, Keith, and feel free to step in here, was that the initial Harris County project was a 211F project, believe it or not. that allowed them to construct certain elements in, as they call it, discrete segments. In certain areas and certain elements they can provide separately, but still be part of that one New Growth project. So that might be something we should address and look at, and maybe some more information on the flooding, I guess, that just occurred. And is that inside the Richland Creek drainage district where the properties and homes?
Some of it is, and then it moved out of it into, a branch basin that drains down, which we've got a canal through town to catch that.
All the work that Morris did out there around across from the Pepsi plant, that's Richland Creek. I can tell y'all, I had never seen so much water out there. We had water, 3 to 4 feet of water solid over Greenfield Road, which was all trying to get into Richland Creek. Patrick Farms Golf Course was totally underwater. The swimming pool that you can see on State Hospital from Greenfield Road out there on top of the hill, it was underwater. The swimming pool was underwater. You couldn't see the swimming pool. I mean, all that water. That's what. When I called Mark that morning and I asked him if he was having problems, and he said, "No, are you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, my problems will come this afternoon." And I didn't really. I've never been that much aware. And I've never seen that much water in these spots. And I've never seen Greenfield Road under, and I've been here a long time. I've never seen it under. But we got rid of all that water by 11 o'clock and thought that our problems were over. And then our problems came down in the deep street. Yes, right. All the Brandon water and all that water coming out of the Patrick Farms area off of Greenfield had flowed down enough that we started having problems in the deep street area behind the deep street levees, which, we had nowhere to pump the water to because it was about the top of the levee on,
Yeah, when he told us what it was doing over there, which I knew from history what we were going to have later on, but when he told me what was underwater, that's when we started notifying businesses, you need to come get your stuff and move it. And if we're not going to address all of it, we're going to have some big, it's going to have to be a total plan. Now, I know we can't do the whole thing at one time, but we can do more if we do look at something countywide. Or at least tributary-wise. If you have anything that drains into it, you need to, those people, because there's places that's going to, the better we control the flow coming out and through, the safer those homes are that historically never get anything anyway. But the more that's built, the more problem we're going to have of being on the tail end.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, did the Corps have any suggestions on how to deal with that issue?
Even on their plan, all their idea was to put a south levee, wrap it around the south side of Richland Creek and come down, which is a great idea. Other than what they're doing then is causing 2 or 3 areas like Richland Creek, Nelly Creek, Squirrel Branch to become ponding areas. So they've got one spot they had tied up 640 acres just to hold water during a rainy event. Which I don't have a problem with that because it's timbered land, but you're impacting somebody else's property when you have that design. So those are additional costs, but it's not solving the problem. Because if you bottleneck everything to Richland Creek Bridge on Highway 49, he's going to have flooding like he's never had before too. Because right now it can overflow and flow down and flood us, but you bottleneck it where it's inside 2 levees, it's going back on him. We'll have water on 469 in places going out to Whitfield.
And Mr. Garrett, to add to that, what Mayor Sparrow just had mentioned, the Corps did not address anything outside the project area of their levee plan when they were pushing that plan, including leveeing off the creeks in Jackson, Town Creek, Lynch Creek, and really didn't address the levee, the backwater flooding to occur behind those levees in the downtown and such areas. Those were not addressed. They just thought that the probability of raining while the river was high was low, so they were kind of almost rolling down the same issue. But it was not addressed. Backwater flooding was not addressed.
Thank you. Any other business?
Mayor, Mr. Chairman, do we need to lift the emergency status that we were operating under?
I think it only stands for 7 days, doesn't it?
Automatically expires.
I think it's 7 days. He's making that correct.
Check the dates, if it doesn't expire, we want to
Yeah.
Any other business?
No, we're adjourned.
Motion, Mayor Scar.
Second.
Second, Mayor Moore, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.